Hi there, it's Chad Wilson here with you again over at Foundation Bank, and I'm happy today to be talking about money. It's something that you understand, something that you deal with every day, and it's something that we all want more of if we're really honest, right? But what is the purpose of money? What do we have it for? I want to talk a little bit more about that and unpack some of the ideas that have already been introduced in the YouTube video that you just saw. Three things that money kind of accomplishes for us, and then we're going to talk about what you can actually do with money. But let's start with these three things. First was a medium of exchange, a unit of account was the second one, and a store of value. I want us to unpack that just a little bit. There are marketplaces all around us where people are trading one thing for another. That's the way the world works. Whether you're in the US or whether you're in the remote parts of the world, people are constantly trading one thing for another. And we would call that a marketplace. Sometimes it's a very small one where you just have two people that are exchanging something. And in other parts of the world, like the New York Stock Exchange, for example, there are thousands of transactions taking place every minute. Lots of exchanging going on. So you have these big marketplaces, you have small marketplaces, and one person has one thing that they are willing to trade for to get something they don't have. And so in days of the past, the way that you did that was through bartering. I have maybe corn that I'm raising. This person over here has a cow, and I want meat, he wants corn, so I trade one for another. But that's really clunky and that's really hard, and there's often a mismatch of I may have corn, but he may not want corn. He may be willing to sell his cow, but he doesn't want to do it with corn. So in civilizations of the past, currencies were developed. That is something that is desirable for everybody, something that has wide appeal, something that everybody wants and that they can use to get more of. And so you've seen precious metals often serve as that. You've seen gold and silver and other metals that were used as money. Well, countries realized that those are, first of all, hard to protect. If you're using gold as the way that you want to exchange, it's easy for somebody to steal that. And it's also hard to have the right amount of gold for what you're wanting to purchase. It's hard to divide up these precious metals into smaller amounts. So countries began printing currency, all right? We would call that cash. And that cash was an obligation of that government to make that bill a certain value. So we have $100 bills, we have $50 bills, we have $10 bills, $20 bills, $1 bills. There's even some $2 bills out there. Did y'all know that? My kids were asking about that the other day. Do $2 bills really exist? They do. There's not very many of them, but they do. So these pieces of paper are not valuable in and of themselves. What's valuable is the fact that the United States government, in the case of the dollar, is standing behind it to say this bill is worth $1 or $5 or whatever it is. And it makes it a lot easier for us to divide up something of worth into smaller units. And that leads me to the first thing that we saw in the YouTube video. Money is meant to be a medium of exchange. It is there to help us trade more easily. Everyone wants cash, and so it acts as a universally acceptable and universally desirable way to exchange goods with one another. You may not have goods that I want, but I am happy to exchange what I have for your cash. And so that money acts as a way to help us trade with one another. All right, so I think I've explored that point more deeply. Let's move on to the second purpose of money, which is a unit of account. So it's hard to count gold pieces And it's hard to, they would have to, when they used these precious metals, they would have to weigh them on a scale. Is it 1 ounce? Is it 3 ounces? And sometimes people would actually put other metals, paint them to look like gold or silver, and then try to use those. There was a lot of counterfeit that went on when precious metals were used. And so with money, it's very easy to account for how much you have. You can either count it out in the bills that you have, or if you have a bank account, which we're going to talk about in a future lesson, you know exactly how much is there. You know the exact amount of money. And so as we saw in the video, it's easy to compare things to one another. It's hard to compare how much is silver worth versus gold. It's very easy if everything is denominated in dollars to say this car is going to cost me $10,000. This car over here is going to cost me $12,000. If we had a different way of comparing, it'd be like apples and oranges, and it'd be hard to compare. So dollars kind of level the playing field. They kind of help us figure out how much things are worth. It'd be hard if we were measuring the value of cars in the number of cows it would take, and this person over here is measuring the number of sheep that it takes to buy that car. It's hard to compare those two things. So just like inches are the measurement that tell us how tall we are, that's what we use here in the United States, dollars are the measurement that we use to measure how much something is worth, how much value it holds. That's what we're trying to do with the unit of account. All right, and then lastly, a store of value. So every day we have to store our value in something. We do that maybe in the vehicles that we drive. That's a store of value. That's a declining store of value. Did you know that when you buy a car, every day the value of it is going down just a little bit every day? That's what we would call a depreciating asset. A home typically is considered a very stable store of value. If you have a home, in recent years in particular, those values have actually gone up. And so there's some stores of value that go down, some stores of value that go up. Cash is meant to be a stable source of value. So if you have $1 today, a year from now, it's still going to be worth $1. And so it's a way to store what you have in a tool that is still going to be worth the same thing down the road. Now, the video hinted at this idea of inflation, where that dollar may not buy you as much as it did previously. That's inflation eats away at the value of that dollar, but it's still worth $1, right? $1 is $1. Just a hint at what inflation can do. I can remember when I was in high school, I would go through McDonald's for quick meals, when I was going to a practice or an event or something like that. And I'd run through McDonald's and I'd get 2 cheeseburger value meal and an apple pie. That was kind of my go-to meal, okay? And I remember that cost $4.04 back then. I went through McDonald's just a few weeks ago and I was looking on the menu, and you almost can't get a value meal for less than $10 now. I mean, inflation has definitely taken its toll. And so that's one example of $4 is still $4 today, $4.04 that I was paying then, but it's not going to buy me as much, but it's still $4. So the unit or the store of value hasn't changed, but maybe the potential for that value has. So you can store your value in anything, but cash is a very stable place for you. Currency, money, is a very stable place for you to do that. All right, so I hope this has been helpful to dive into these topics just a little bit deeper. The next video is going to tell you what we can do with this money. All right, there's 4 things that we can do with money, and we're going to talk about that in the next video. Hope this was helpful, and look forward to the next video.